Warning: this program typically features strong language, sexual innuendo, politically incorrect commentary, and real stories from the road. Viewer discretion is advised.
I think that they were looking at the house because maybe they weren't super thrilled with their life on the road. And I think it was less about their life on the road and more about the Syncro. And so I think that when we were talking with them, that's sort of the conclusion we came to, was that maybe it wasn't necessarily that they wanted to be off the road. It was just that they needed a break from all the mechanical failures of the Syncro, and just having that constantly be on their mind and just getting back to the basics of just enjoying traveling.
We left off last time watching the solar eclipse from a mountainside in eastern Oregon. With our time hanging out with our friends Amy and Kev at an end, we decided to start heading south with the intention of finally getting our van's issues fixed, once and for all. And then, setting off towards travel in Latin America. Hello, we're on the road to the Steens, and I'm pretty shaky because this is really washboardy. But Jessica has, oh my god, Jessica has cut up some cheese. Good gracious. Look at all this, look at this food. We're gonna try to eat that without choking because this is so freaking shaky and rattly. And I feel like swallowing on this sort of road might be hard. Yes, I just used the words swallowing and hard in the same sentence. You're welcome. Ow. Too hot. Too hot. I didn't know that they got hot like that. The road to Steens Mountain was about as washboardy a road as we've ever driven on. To help soften the ride, we adjusted our shocks to their softest setting and reduced our tire pressure to around 20 psi. We also learned how hot shocks can get, and we're thankful to be running fluid reservoirs, which help keep the shocks cooler under heavy usage. We're at the Steens at Kiger Gorge Overlook. Spectacular. That's the good news. The bad news is, yet another turbo pressure regulation valve has gone bad. This is the 5th one. We thought we'd figured this problem out. But no, we haven't. Well, anyways, let's enjoy what we can enjoy. And we'll worry about that later. The N75 is a solenoid device that our van's computer uses to adjust the amount of vacuum reaching our turbo's actuator. In layman's terms, it's part of the system in our engine that controls the boost pressure from our turbo. If it's leaky, that means we aren't creating the proper amount of turbo boost, and that can affect how well our engine runs. In the year we'd driven our van, we would have replaced this valve a total of 6 times before finally discovering what the issue was. It's probably old news to most of you by now, but it was once again due to the shoddy engine conversion job done by Northwesty in Seattle. Since we knew we were running on a bad N75 yet again, we opted to cut our visit to the Steens short in order to get to California a little bit sooner than we'd intended, in hopes of taking care of this issue, plus everything else that was plaguing Ripley. But, as is usually the case with us, we got distracted by a place called Crater Lake National Park.
Holy cow, you guys. We're here at Crater Lake and it's covered in wildfire smoke, which is disappointing, but I just was not expecting it to be this gorgeous. Like, beautiful forest kind of surrounding the lake, and just kind of blown away by it. And we're seeing it, I feel like, not in its best state.
No, not even close.
When you look out over the lake, you can barely see the water down below from the lookout. That's how smoky it is right now. Man, it's gorgeous. This makes me want to plan to definitely come back. Alright, you guys, check it out. Crater Lake back here. But as you can see to this side, you can like barely see the lake. It's nuts. The smoke is so thick, so we have
But y'all can still see Jorge National Park all day.
So we came, we saw, now we're gonna get the fuck out because it's getting hard to breathe. Peace.
Isn't it funny that the wildfire smoke is pushing us south just at the moment that we're deciding to
go south?
To go south? It's a sign. Jinx! If you recall, a few weeks before our time in Oregon, we left Canada because of all the wildfire smoke there. And here we were again, pressing further south, running from wildfire smoke again. Only this time, our goal was to finally take the plunge and start our journey into Latin America. So with Crater Lake too hazy to enjoy, our only option was to get back on track and keep heading southward. Though we aren't ones to believe in signs, our journey began to feel guided, as if being pushed by an invisible hand towards some end goal. I feel like tired. Like super tired.
Here, next to that blue car.
Yeah. Here it is. This is where we're sleeping. The jankiest ass fucking parking lot in all of Northern California. See y'all in the morning.
I loved the Syncro, but it was sort of this like love-hate relationship with it, because if it wasn't a VW, we probably wouldn't have met. But I also know that the Syncro was a bitch in terms of getting things figured out and things breaking down and things working, and the amount of like heartache and headache that went into making the Syncro work. And that, like, I felt the pain of that. Of course, it looked amazing. It was super badass. Like, it was impressive the amount of work that Jorge and Jessica did and put into it, and the way that it looked was like just beautiful. So many good things about it, but also like the ordeals that Jorge and Jessica went through to try to get it really like steady and reliable and roadworthy seemed excruciating.
Look at that shit. 100 degrees with a real feel of 109.
Oh my God, everybody. We're driving through the I can't even talk. We're driving through the Central Valley of California, and it is literally
We just changed again to 109.
100 degrees, and I'm so freaking hot. Both of us have taken clothing off. You can see Jessica, she's in her bra. Giggity giggity. The dogs are panting. Jessica's about to go back there and let them down. We got no air conditioning in this van. None. All we got is the hot air coming in through the windows. My feet are freaking burning up from this throttle pedal, man. It is like sitting in an inferno.
Doing alright, Tunya? Seems to be doing a lot better now that she's soaked down.
Good.
She's just sleeping.
That next morning, we hit the road en route to Santa Cruz, where we encountered some of the hottest temperatures we'd experienced since starting full-time travel. Pro tip we've learned: to keep your doggies cool in temperatures like these, soak them with cool water. When the breeze comes in through the window, it cools the water, and thus cools down your puppies. Works every time.
Oh yeah, wet and wild. It's like a Playboy scene over here in the driver's seat. All right, we're pulled over on the side of the road. I don't know what's wrong with the van. Still running, but I'm getting zero throttle response. I don't know if it's because the van's overheating. I don't know what's wrong, but maybe the computer has gone into a limp mode or something because it's so freaking hot out here.
All the temp gauges read normal, so I cycled the key a few times, resetting the ECU, which got us running. And then we added this strange new temperature problem to our long list of things to fix on Ripley. Our first stop in California was to see Ralph at Van Cafe to help suss out a few problems we were having with our drive shaft and with our radiator fan. The next day, we would set off towards Sacramento, where we hoped to get some of her other issues fixed.
Oh, Ripley. Beautiful bitch she was. She was temperamental and badass. I loved driving that thing around. It was like this mix between, a normal van, again, feels a little floppy when you drive it around. Like the steering, the shifting, and the clutch, everything is kind of like soft and flowy. But in Ripley, it was like firm. You know what I'm saying? And she just felt good to drive. When she was on, she was on. And it felt like she could drive forever. We felt comfortable in that van. And inside and out, visually, she was like our work of art, our joint effort, like manifest in this physical thing. It was just unfortunate that she didn't want to get down the road without giving us a lot of problems.
So what are we doing? We are borrowing Ralph's van for a week because we got to take our Syncro, Ripley, to Sacramento to get some work done. So Ralph has let us borrow his van in order for us to be able to get back from Sacramento and have something to drive around for the week. How clutch is that? Ooh, that clutch is floppy. Check out this Indian cab driver's seat thing that I'm gonna sit on.
My dad always used to have these in his vehicles.
So your dad was an Indian cab driver?
Yeah.
Huh, I always thought he was Puerto Rican. That explains why you're so brown. Oh, hear the purr of that 2.1 liter water boxer German engine from Volkswagen. That's Doug, everybody.
Oh, hey there.
He's the one who's gonna be ironing out some leftover issues that we have on the rig. Gonna have it for a week. I'm all out of breath because it's freaking hot out here and I can't breathe in this weather. And also, like, I took more than 4 steps at once. But anyhow, he's hooking it up. All right, man. See ya.
Have a good one. Enjoy your trip.
All right. We dropped Ripley off with Doug for him to handle a series of temperature-related issues we've been having with Ripley. While he took care of that, Jessica and I settled into work at a co-working space in Santa Cruz to earn some much-needed money to help pay for all this work we were having done to Ripley. Before we knew it, though, we were back in Sacramento to pick her up. Ripley was like the girl you fall in love with in high school, the first girl you fall in love with in high school. And she has all the goods, as it were, but she's also a little bit crazy. And you know that because you're in high school, the chances of it working out forever are slim, but you hold out this hope. You feel so strongly about the other person, and they just take your heart out, and then they throw it onto the PE field and stomp all over it during recess. Is there recess in high school? PE, whatever. And it just crushes you because you don't know what it was that you did wrong, and she don't know how to tell you what it was that you did wrong. By the way, if you're thinking that I'm describing normal relationships, you need to get out of your normal relationship. That's not normal. That's not how it's supposed to be. But the point is that like it was this insane back and forth where one day I loved that van more than anything in the world, and then the next day I'm throwing wrenches and just like, how is it possible that this thing is broken again? What did I do to deserve this? That's kind of how I felt the entire time we owned that van. But I loved her because she was so pretty and she felt so good when we were like in the groove, right? When we were driving and everything felt fine and there were no problems, no codes were being thrown. Like it was so wonderful until it wasn't. And yeah, that's the only way to really describe the relationship that we had with that van it always just felt kind of toxic. It always just felt like it wasn't going to end well. And, I say this a lot, but just because something is special doesn't mean that it has to be forever. And I think that kind of sums up our relationship with Ripley.
We got Ripley back, and she is running so freaking good. I am like beyond pumped. Like my heart is beating fast. Like I've got butterflies in my stomach. Things are going so good with this van right now. I can't even like express it in words. The amount of work that Doug did to it has been staggering.
Doug's house. About to get to Doug's house. There she is. There she is. She actually makes me very happy to see her. How do you feel?
I'm excited.
You also look pretty finally.
Ripley just spent the last week or so in Sacramento with her buddy Doug. He did all sorts of new and exciting things to her.
And he's really dialed in a lot of the issues that we've been having for a long time. Our intake air temps are way down, probably like 30 to 40 degrees cooler. We now have a fuel system that is working how it should. The fuel is staying cool.
We mounted the cooler here for it, and we got a little shield for it, so we're not going to get any rocks kicking up and getting on that.
I like that.
And we've also got this fancy like bypass thing. I don't know how to explain it, but essentially it helps keep the fuel cool.
And then here's a diverter that runs from your supply to your return, and you can adjust the flow through this here. So what's going on is that pump is now pushing fuel up, and then some of it's running into the pump, and then some of it's running back to the return. So now we're keeping constant fuel circulation versus it being stagnant, because this is only consuming so much, but the pump is wanting to supply a lot more. So that's anytime you pressurize anything, you're going to create heat.
Now the amount of fuel that's being pumped by the fuel pump is being better regulated and entering the engine at the right PSI, whereas before we were feeding the engine too much fuel and it was causing back pressure, and that back pressure and hot fuel, because there was no cooler on it, is what was burning up all those pumps that we went through. I think we went through like 4 or 5 pumps.
I think that our fuel situation is much better, so fingers crossed.
We got the turbo blanket on as well. We got the 1800 degree
turbo blanket wrapped around the exhaust housing of the turbo.
The turbo's got a blanket on it, which means that we will have much cooler engine temps, much cooler intercooler temps. The whole engine bay is about 200 to 300 degrees cooler now than it was before.
Having all these little nagging issues finally taken care of after the full year and a half of build time feels pretty good.
So many things have been done to dial the van in that Doug did, and I am just absolutely pumped to get this thing on the road and to go and start doing some real traveling. Really happy.
We also got a larger intercooler heat exchanger installed, along with a fan we could manually control to help reduce our air intake temps. Oh, and that N75 issue from earlier in this episode? Doug fixed that too. Turns out, Northwesty had left a vacuum line venting to open atmosphere, and that line was sucking in dust and moisture, which is what ended up killing so many of our N75s. So, with these fixes done, we had just one more shop to visit.
All right, we're at Stefan's Auto House. I'm gonna chat with this fool now.
We took Ripley to Stefan's Auto House, where we tasked him with figuring out the last two issues we had left. We've always enjoyed working with Stefan and found him to always be able to figure out our most difficult problems. While there, we asked him to figure out why our van always took so long to start, as we suspected this long starting issue was why we'd burned through one starter in less than a year. He was able to figure that out pretty quickly. He discovered that the power wire to our cam position sensor had not been connected by Northwesty when they made the wiring harness. Our other issue, however, proved too much for Stefan. Our van had always had this weird hiccup in the throttle after starting up. This hiccup would keep the van in limp mode until you pressed the throttle twice while in gear. Stefan was unable to figure out this issue, as the wiring diagram given to us by Northwesty didn't match the wiring harness they'd shoddily built for our van. Even after getting a hold of a European wiring harness diagram for our engine, our harness wiring still didn't match any diagrams that anybody could find. So we tabled that issue when a larger one presented itself.
So after spending all that time feeling like we're finally getting the van dialed in and getting our issues sorted once and for all, we started hearing a noise from the transmission. After getting it diagnosed, we discovered that the main shaft and the ring and pinion were starting to go bad, which was going to necessitate our third rebuild in less than 40,000 miles. A few months back, we received an email from someone named Kimberly who had recently finished watching our YouTube series, and what she had to say meant a lot to us, and we wanted to share it with you here. She said, "I just wanted to send a message to you today because I felt compelled to reach out on a human level. I was thinking about the two of you and how many episodes we watched where you were driving Ripley and things would just break. Constantly, it seemed. I ride a bike for my transport, and even though it's a simple mechanical instrument, it still surprises me how many things can break. Dealing with an entire van, I can't even imagine. I mean, I know you probably feel good in some way because you learned so much about mechanics, but man, the endurance it must take is tough. So just wanted to send a shout out to you two, even though I don't really know you and you of course have no idea who I am. To say I connect with that feeling of just being tired of things not working when they should, and the stamina it takes to keep going and keep your head high. I'm sorry the van was a tough process, and I'm sorry you had so many rough spots. Sending you some love and connection from California. Kimberly." And she's right. It took everything that we had to get and then keep that van on the road. Ripley kind of encompassed all of our hopes and dreams for international travel. And she took them and she chewed them up and spit them back out.
that is kind of what I think about now when I think about Ripley. But then when I start to think about specific times, like on beaches in Baja, or up in, like snowy meadows up in the Rocky Mountains, and those times were awesome. The living space that we had created for ourselves in that van was something that I was proud of, and I think we were proud of. It was just, we purpose-built that van for us. If we hadn't had all of those issues, we might still be in that van right now. But that's just not how things went. And, after what felt like was like years of travel lost and so many hours of work, it felt like it was just being thrown down the drain. It was just too much. And at some point you just have to say, enough is enough, and kind of call an abusive relationship out for what it is. And that's what it felt like in that van. We would get these little glimmers of what could be, in those moments where she was running well, and then something else would fail. And I think that last failure of the transmission was just too much. It was just like, what are we doing? Throwing another transmission in here. And yes, she very well may have worked just fine for us for years after that, but we weren't willing to take that chance anymore. So in the end, and after so much time's passed, I'm glad we made the decision to move on. But I'm also glad for everything we experienced while we had her.
Lay it down, let me see your hand. Show me what you got. You're always talking, but you're not playing. It doesn't match your face. Gotta find my way away from this place. Can you take me now? I want it real. Are you afraid of me now? Are you afraid of me now? Do you feel it? Do you feel it? Do you feel that I can see your soul? Do you feel it? Do you feel it? Do you feel the beat in your heart? I want it real. Run away with me now. I want it real. Run away with me now. Some days I'm built of metal, I can't be broken, but not when I'm with you. You love me real, we have it all. You can't leave me now. I love the way you are today. Run away with me now. Wind's in my hair, 'cause I don't care. And baby, run away with me now. Run away with me now. Do you feel it? Do you feel it? Do you feel that I can see your soul? Do you feel it? Do you feel it? Do you feel the beat in your heart? I want it real. Run away with me now. I want it real. Run away with me now.
But after all the time and money spent getting and then keeping Ripley on the road, we felt tired and defeated. So once we got her pretty much sorted, we made the decision to change course, to stop and reconsider why we started this journey in the first place. We took a break from living in a van, even going so far as to look at buying a house in Fort Collins, Colorado. But we couldn't stop. We received advice from a friend, and she gave us a different idea to mull over.
We happened to be in Fort Collins, Colorado at the same time as Jorge and Jessica, and I think that they were starting to have some serious doubts about what they were doing and having the Syncro and what their life was going to look like going forward. And they wanted to go look at some houses in the Fort Collins area. And since we happened to be in the area, and I'm all about some real estate, so I went with them one day to look at this one particular house, which I will say to this day was absolutely adorable. It was this really cool little A-frame set out of town a little ways. And we took the Syncro out to go look at the A-frame, but we went and we sat on the side porch of the house, and I think that they were pretty seriously entertaining the idea of buying this house. But to me, I just didn't feel like, it just felt too soon, too much. And I was just like, what if there's something in between the Syncro and a house? An option that you haven't thought of or haven't explored yet. And it was weird to be having that conversation and to look in the driveway of the house that we were sitting in and to see so much hard work and love that had been poured into the Syncro, all for it to be for naught. And the decision ended up being that Jorge and Jessica were gonna buy a 4Runner, and they purchased the 4Runner, but they didn't really know what they were wanting to do quite yet. And so we just called them up and we're like, hey, why don't you guys come with us out east? It'll just be some time to clock some miles, get to know your vehicle, put some distance between you and Ripley, just to kind of try to bring some clarity to what it is that your road needs to look like next. So I believe that they ended up meeting up with us somewhere in the middle of Kansas, if I recall.
Yep.
And we took, I think, a week or two to just kind of move slow and just like reconnect, hash through the details, dry some tears, and recalibrate for what's next.
We took her advice and set off down the road yet again, only not in our beloved Ripley. Our time with her had come to a bittersweet end.
I'm drinking in the summer, I'm good at running, I beat you in the race again. Are you afraid when I look your way? It's easiest to stay home, but then we taste it, we've gotta have it, we have no control. Where is the love, the kind we dream of, the kind that makes us young, the kind that makes us young?
Chasing sunsets, digging our toes into coastlines, climbing winding roads up mountains, and meeting so many incredible people tucked away in various corners of our world is what makes our hearts beat fast. Even though we wanted to take a break from full-time travel, we found it too difficult to not bear witness to miles of road passing beneath the wheels of our vehicle. Our dream to travel the world in Ripley had suffered countless setbacks. But through it all, we kept our goal in front of us and found that though we wavered, in the end, our hearts could will only one thing. We were built to explore. We were built to live free and drive hard.
Get that ass out a little more, Ben. Out. Get that ass out. Pop it. There you go.